Hello, Erik Sama.
What up, Tyler?
Been a minute,
It has.
but now we've become enlightened.
You're a dork.
We're here to do something special.
Something we have introduced.
But we've not yet unproduced.
Ha ha!
We're here not to fillet,
Gross.
not to eat out.
Cuddling-gate.
We come here to master debate.
Finally.
Let me get the fucking hat. You didn't see...
Just bring out the hat.
You didn't see the prelim. We're picking a topic from the hat.
From the hat.
We're going to debate it. We're going to allow ourselves 30 minutes of research. Do you have a coin?
No, I don't. Well, hold on.
Get a coin flipper website up. My man's.
Okay.
All right. I'll let you pick the topic today.
Okay.
Reach inside the hat, my brother.
These slips might be a little bit too big.
Yeah.
Diogenes.
Oh!
Based or cringe?
Is Diogenes based or cringe? All right. Now, in order to decide who thinks Diogenes is based and who thinks he's cringe, flip the coin. Flip the virtual, the digital, the electronic coin. Who do you want, heads or tails?
Well, we're doing it in the air.
Heads.
Tails.
So you get to pick, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to say Diogenes is based.
All right. I think he's fucking cringe. So, what do we got? I got 5 after the hour on my clock here. We got 30 minutes. 30 minutes.
Okay.
We're gonna show you the highlights.
Okay.
This is bullshit. Firefox wants me to update. So, really, this is the whole fucking debate is forfeit.
Why aren't you using Brave, my dude?
I don't know why I don't have Brave on this.
Brave's based.
I'm a fan.
Yeah. I like Chrome in general. It's just too slow. Brave has all the benefits of Chrome, and then, has the speed.
Well, of course, I gotta go to the Wikipedia page for Diogenes.
Oh, yes.
Immediately. I'm not educated on Diogenes. I just know he's the mean. He's you have Aristotle and Plato and Socrates arguing, and then Diogenes is whacking off in the corner. That's how the memes are always. Oh shit! You're ready to take some fucking notes.
I'm taking notes.
I don't need notes. I know he's cringe. I can remember everything.
All right.
Let me get the beer open. Can't read without a beer.
Diogenes is fucking based.
Yeah, I might be on the losing side on this one.
Fucking say we live in a society.
This is the shittiest part about most of the ancients is that none of their most of them, besides the big ones, none of the shit they actually wrote survived a lot of the time. Just unfortunate. Diogenes is said to have eaten in the marketplace, urinated on some people who insulted him, defecated in the theater, and masturbated in public.
Yeah, he's sounding more and more based.
On the indecency of his masturbating in public, he would say, if only it were as easy to banish hunger by rubbing my belly.
Yeah, you're gonna have a hard time here.
You're right, because I'm arguing against the shit I actually believe.
That's what debate is, bro.
I know. But while property was regarded as a kind of necessary evil by Antisthenes, Diogenes stood up for theft, claiming all things are the property of the wise. He also quite reasonably approved of cannibalism. Also, this article I've been reading for like 10 or 15 minutes now that I found is also, it's really good and interesting, but it's also incredibly biased, so I'm not even helping myself. But I can't stop reading it.
Okay, I have one thing to say.
Say it.
Web developers, can we stop putting white text on black backgrounds? Listen, like, I get it. I know a bit about web development. I understand it. But it fucking hurts. And this in the text, you gotta, like, understand. Your text is too damn small. It's small and fucking white.
I've been zooming in.
I know, it's fucking...
I've been zooming in, like...
It's like, damn. This text isn't, like, yellow. I've seen this shit. That's like... If you make a...
Yellow on orange?
I would... You should be strung up for that.
Shot in the street like a dog.
Fucking for real.
I can't.
What?
I'm reading this. I've been skimming this article. I'm going to read the whole thing, but just eventually, like, after we're done doing this, because it's fucking hilarious. Being himself a beggar by choice in a society where beggars were not swept up into hostels, reception centers, or concentration camps, he put his hand out to someone mean who said, "I'll give you money if you could persuade me why I should." If I could have convinced you of anything," rejoined Diogenes, "I would have persuaded you to hang yourself." I do have one more interesting observation that's not really have anything to do with the debate, but all these, these are all independent people writing about. There's like the different philosophy websites and stuff that I'm skimming through here, but they all compare him to, well, they all say, like this one says, something about Nietzsche, perhaps his only modern pupil. When, like, having literally last month just read Stirner for the first time, I feel like Stirner is a little bit more Diogenes than even Nietzsche is, in terms of, like, the disdain for, like, just all, like, societal norms and shit that seem to have no purpose.
Social conventions.
Yeah.
Yep. People forget Stirner exists sometimes, man.
Between the propertied and the poor and spirit, there is a little space. All right, we're at 30 minutes.
Pencils down.
Wish I would have won a coin flip, though. All right, do you need a second to kind of regroup, or can we just fucking go into this shit?
Let's go, bro.
Let's go. All right.
All right, bro. All right, here's my thesis statement.
All right. As I say, do you want to make like an opening kind of...
Diogenes is based. Here's why he's based. I got 3 points.
3 points. All right.
3 points. I believe I have 3 points.
Okay.
It may go on a little bit longer. Some of them may flow together. I don't know.
Okay, yet. That's all right.
Complete utter rejection of all societal norms and mores, I should say. 2. Did not give a fuck about anyone. 3. Straight up just jerked off in public.
He was jerking.
Yeah.
Shitting, puking, sleeping in a pot.
Yeah, so...
let's go over a little bit of just what we've learned for the uninitiated, right?
Honestly, here's like why I believe Diogenes is based, for the most part. He's like one of the few philosophers I've ever found that truly practiced what he preached. Like, he had one possession, a bowl. And then when it was demonstrated to him that he did not need to own the bowl, he destroyed the bowl.
let's go over Diogenes just a little bit, like the basics, right? For the babies.
Okay.
For the babies. Okay, so he was sort of he's a ancient Greek, obviously, along with the other, ancient Greeks who were held up in high esteem. But he is sort of nowadays he's known for being like one of the principal figures behind Cynicism, which also like eventually flowed into Stoicism. Stoicism is kind of an offshoot of some of the central ideas of Cynicism, but basically, like you mentioned, a complete and total like rejection of all like civilization and societal norms in terms of thinking of them basically as just like completely arbitrary for the most part. And,
which they are.
Yeah. Well, he's cringe, bro.
Good luck. Good luck.
You're telling me, dude. You're telling me.
Okay, here's the thing. You don't win by convincing me, you win by convincing them.
I know.
So, but
I have to convince myself. And he's also like, what I found interesting was that, and I didn't really know this because I've read a little bit of Plato, like the basic amount of Plato, like in basic political science classes and shit. But, I didn't know that Diogenes he wasn't a student of Socrates directly, but he carried on a lot. Like what's funny about Plato and Diogenes and a lot of these people who are alive at the same time is that a lot of them, they all like basically fundamentally agreed with Socrates. They just all had they all went in different directions with it almost. Where like Diogenes, ironically, maybe to the uninitiated, Diogenes, like, the only thing that mattered to Diogenes was, like, virtue. But his idea of virtue is living like he lived. Yeah. Whereas, and he hated not only, like, civilization, but, like the Greek idea of, like, reason and rationality, which is, like, he saw as fucking completely just built up on, like, self-filleting fucking abstractions.
Correct.
And, like, thought loops and shit. So, it's just interesting to me. His status, not even getting into, like, agreeing or disagreeing. Right?
Right.
But, unfortunately, I have to argue why Diogenes is cringe. And the most cringe thing about Diogenes is that, like, obviously, you could call him a fucking degenerate, right? He was a fucking degenerate.
Sure.
Running around pissing, shitting. But, when you look at, like, him coming from, like, some of the things he thought about coming from, like, Socrates and shit. Not coming from, but inspired by, in the same bloodline or DNA or whatever. Some of that's there. It's a little bit, there's some element of, like, hypocrisy to him running, or, like, him behaving the way he does when he wouldn't be able to, like, exist without the shit that came before him. You know what I mean? Like, he wouldn't have a society to, like, rebel against if everyone behaved like he did. Like, he's the only way that, like, there wasn't people preaching his philosophy when there was no Athens. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, in a lot of ways, yeah, he's, like, even, like, if I wasn't arguing about how he's cringe, like, there's certain elements, like, even you can look at society today and be like, damn, like, I don't want anything to do with this shit because it fucking sucks, right? That's a mindset you could look at it with, which I think,
right,
outside of the debate, maybe we look at it that way. But he also he doesn't necessarily have a philosophy that, like, it only exists in reaction to other people and their shit, right? It's not necessarily a philosophy of the self as much as it is like rejecting everybody else, and all these different, the idea of society itself. You know what I mean?
Kind of disagree with that. Partially, I disagree with that.
Well,
because his major philosophy was like living a life of virtue, but his idea of virtue was like extreme abject poverty and asceticism.
Yes.
So, I mean, that could be considered to be in relation to the society in which he lived in. But I think that could be, that could be in anything. I think even when you're living by yourself, you can still live an inesthetic lifestyle. Is that a word?
In aesthetic?
Yeah. Anti-aesthetic? What's the opposite of aesthetic?
The opposite of ascetic is like hedonistic.
Oh. Yeah.
Hedonism.
Here's the thing.
Which there's almost like Diogenes he did live ascetically in a lot of ways, but he also, well, I guess it depends on, let me look up the dictionary definition of hedonistic, because I think I interpreted it a little bit wrongly, but to me, hedonism is like, let me just look up the definition. I don't want to.
Because here's the thing.
Wrong definition of the word.
I don't necessarily completely agree with Diogenes. I just think he did some fucking wild ass shit that I agree with.
He is entertaining regardless. Right?
Yes.
We both find him entertaining.
Because I most of the Greek philosophers that I most agree with Epicurus.
Okay, so when I Google hedonism definition, I don't know what dictionary it comes from. Just the pursuit of pleasure, sensual self-indulgence. So
I'd say that he was pretty self-indulgent.
He was, but some of what I was reading, he also like. Yeah, okay, that's fair. I'll just bite the bullet and say yes. He was ascetic, but also he was hedonistic. Because if you look,
I don't think those two things are. I don't think they're antonyms.
Asceticism also doesn't just mean like not like being poor. It also is like, if you look at like the oldest ascetics are like the Indian ascetics.
Yeah.
And, obviously probably the Greeks weren't aware of fucking Indian philosophy at the time, but the Indian ascetics were like, no fucking joke, like sit in one spot, don't speak, eat minimal, and like meditate. So when I think of asceticism, that's more of what I think of. So there's elements of asceticism and elements of hedonism in the way he behaved, because he lived in poverty, but he also just like ran around like doing whatever the fuck.
Right. Jerking off.
Yeah. Behaving like a dog.
Yeah.
He respected the dog.
As all men should.
As more evolved than humans.
Yeah. Shit's based.
But if we're talking about being cringe, I'm trying to elaborate.
Another thing that I would say that I disagree with you about his philosophy being in reference to his surroundings. One of his beliefs was like personal excellence comes from behavior, not just thinking. Like he was more of a practical person. Like when told that motion is impossible, he stood up and walked away.
He said, fuck you.
Literally, he just looked at him and fuck you, got up and walked away. Thereby proving motion exists. And the sheer act of walking around with a lantern in broad daylight in Athens looking for an honest man. Like, you can't do shit like that now. Imagine walking around with a flashlight at the mall going, I'm looking for an honest man.
You can, but nobody will. That's too much of a coward.
Right. Just like you can't stand up in the middle of, like, downtown jerking off, going, any honest men would join me.
Yeah, because the fucking police.
Right.
Diogenes had no police. That's why he was able to do it.
Right.
I guess it also depends on if you look at it in terms of, let's say you look at what Diogenes' philosophy. Do you take from it, I should behave like Diogenes, or I should behave however I want and reject
I think that
anything that I don't want to, like all of societal ideas or all of these mental fucking loops that all these so-called intellectuals want to jump through. Like,
here's what I would say. If you ask me, I would say you should reject. I would say the second option there. And I think if you ask Diogenes, I think he would agree with me. Because I don't think he would hold himself as like a higher moral standard. No,
well, I don't. He basically thought morality is 100% relativistic. So
it is.
Well, I can't agree with Diogenes. He's cringe.
Okay.
He's a fucking degenerate.
Is that what the crux of your argument is?
Pretty much. I don't know what else to say.
He was a degenerate.
This is what's ironic about Diogenes, right? Is if you take another, when you have like philosophers debate, right?
Yeah.
Since they're all caught up in like fucking these abstract chains of thought, all you got to do is just like look at it differently enough to like fucking find the chink in their intellectual armor. But Diogenes doesn't even have any. Like, you just got to say like, he's a fucking degenerate. If everyone acted like him, nobody would have, we'd all be fucking hanging out in the woods, and most people don't want to be doing that.
Right.
Most people prefer how it is now, so Diogenes is a fucking hypocrite degenerate, and we point at him and laugh, but nobody will do what he does because his philosophy is untenable to the average person.
Right.
That's probably the crux of why Diogenes is cringe.
You're in the woods jerking your dick.
Yeah. Because what Diogenes did, it's not hard to do. We can go do it right now. If you love Diogenes so much, if he's so fucking based.
Yeah, just...
I'll take the camera off of... I pick up the whole fucking tripod and I'll follow you around. You show me how based Diogenes is.
Just live in the woods in my underwear? In a big-ass bathtub?
It's like a...
Hey man, there's... How many homeless people are there in the U.S.? They're all living like Diogenes. They just need to change their mental philosophy.
Yeah. Maybe. Well, that's another...
Shouldn't say that. That's bad. Those people are, like, in trouble. They didn't choose to be like that.
On this episode of Master Debating, Erik victim blames all homeless. No, but what's... Well, you could...
No, I didn't victim blame them. I just told them to have a different outlook on it. We should as a society not view them as victims of their circumstance, but of great philosophers. True followers of Diogenes.
Well, another something interesting about a lot of philosophers, especially Diogenes, because he's so, like, quote unquote, like grounded, like less reasoning and more like practicality, right, in his behavior. Did Diogenes act like, did he decide that he is just going to act however he wants to act and then build up, like, his ideas around, like, what made him feel good, right?
Right.
Or did he, like, he reasoned in a way, like, in his own way, not in the same way that Plato would, but did he say, like, all right, I reject all this shit, so in order for me to not be a bastard hypocrite bitch, I must, like, go live in a pot and fucking jerk off in this Athens Square. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'd have to do a little bit more deep reading than 30 minutes, but...
Here's some examples of why I believe my boy Diogenes is based. Sure, he was like, manners are a lie. A social construct to make people feel better. Was extremely brutally honest and did not care for social class. The only is quoted as saying, the only place to spit in a rich man's home is his face. Basically said society is cringe.
He said, I'm not cringe, you're cringe. This is why this is the best idea we've ever had, because all of philosophy is basically just like saying what I think is based, what you all think is cringe.
Right. was called a dog, and people proceeded to throw bones at him, walked over, lifted his robe, and pissed on them. Was captured by pirates and made a slave, was asked what he was best at, and he goes, governing men. And then he demanded to be sold to this man from Corinth, Xenethius, I think, something like that. And he goes, that man needs a master. Sell me to him. So they did. And Diogenes ends up becoming his 2 kids' teacher. Dies at like 90. Nobody knows what he died of. There's 3 stories of when he died. One, he just decided to hold his breath until he died.
That's the sickest.
For real.
I've read all these ways too, and that's the sickest of the 3 already.
Of a dog bite.
Ironic.
Truly. And maybe eating, like, bad octopus. And then he said, when I die, throw me outside of the city walls so I may be eaten by the birds and beasts. I don't know what else. That convinces me he's, like, based. Oh, and wait, I can't even forget to bring up Plato's man. Plato stated that man was a featherless biped with...
like his platonic ideal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Diogenes walks into the theater, takes a shit, pulls out a plucked chicken and goes, behold, Plato's man.
That's pretty based.
Right. He was like the biggest critic of Plato ever.
Yeah.
And so Plato comes upon Diogenes washing vegetables in a river. Plato goes, oh, Diogenes, if you could only court kings, you would not have to wash vegetables. And Diogenes looks at Plato. Oh, Plato, if only you could wash vegetables, you would not have to court kings. Like, I'm just saying, like, Diogenes was probably pretty based compared to Plato. Just saying.
This is one of the favorite Plato things I read. I'll just read it. Insofar as Diogenes was known as the dog throughout Athens, at a feast certain people kept throwing all the bones at him as they would to a dog. He, understanding that dogs in their simple humility and formidable logic are the pinnacle of evolution, as we in our complex arrogance are not, played a dog's trick and urinated on them. It is said that Diogenes trampled upon Plato's carpet with the words, I trample upon the pride of Plato, who retorted, yes, Diogenes, with pride of another sort. And they put touche, but it's just apart from dogs, less than a handful of people that I've met are better companions than my thoughts. That's fairly based.
Yeah. He's pretty contemptible of religion, too.
Well, I was reading...
Which is pretty based, in my opinion.
Yeah, so, like, his teacher was named Antisthenes, and a lot of the societal stuff is actually... comes from Antisthenes. Like, for example, Antisthenes, who was a close friend of Socrates and present at the latter's death, he disclaimed pure or upper-class philosophy, believing that the plain man could know all there is to know, and that a beggar would get to know it very soon. Antisthenes was probably more consciously philosophical, though less clever than Diogenes. Antisthenes emphasized moral self-mastery and is said to have rejected the ideas and institutions of government, property, marriage, and religion, all institutions that depend on dishonesty. Without dishonesty, there can be no politics, while religion is comfort and certitude for the simple-minded.
Makes sense.
So, you see where some of the ideas kind of...
Yeah.
But, of course, that's everything. Always has some sort of origin point. We haven't even talked about... How much did you read about Diogenes and Alexander?
Oh, hell yeah.
That shit's got its own Wikipedia article. Just the story of Diogenes.
Alexander, this is another thing why Diogenes is based. Alexander the Great walks upon Diogenes and goes, what can I do for you? Diogenes looks at him and goes, get out of my sunlight. And Alexander looks at Diogenes and goes, if I were not Alexander, I would like to be Diogenes. Diogenes then retorts, yes, if I were not Diogenes, I would like to be Diogenes.
And you can't argue with that.
You can't.
The entire idea of argument and debate is mere masturbation.
It truly is.
Diogenes would say, "You masturbate in your classrooms. I masturbate on the street. Who's more honest?"
For real. So you agree with me? Diogenes is based.
I mean,
I win.
Outside of the debate,
I win.
Outside of the debate, yeah, Diogenes is pretty based. But I don't think what I wasn't completely just like waxing my cock when I was talking about my criticisms. You know, those are I think they're reasonable criticisms,
of course.
But as a person, I also find society contemptible, and I want to take a shit in the street.
That's all I want to do. That's all
I want to be respected for doing it. That's all I care about.
You won't be. Don't worry, guys. Be shitting in the streets. Philosophy. Okay, sure, buddy. Yeah. A lot of what these Greek philosophers thought and did back in the day, you really can't do now.
No.
Like, you try to live in a giant you try to live in a giant tub, like you're gonna get hauled into some center. So I win, alright.
Is that how this ends?
I don't know, maybe. I think so.
No, it's kind of like fucking epic rap battles of history. We gotta leave it up to the fucking the viewers.
I win.
But
so I feel like Diogenes is kind of a hard one to argue. Because he didn't really have that much...
I feel like, I mean, the part of the randomness... So this is our first, like, real time doing this, right?
Right.
Well, let's just talk about the concept a little bit. Because I think some people will be interested. But, so we have a lot of philosophers in there, but it's almost... There's benefits to doing it this way because it's, like, more sporadic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have to look at each philosopher almost as their own beast. But at the same time, there would also be merit to doing it like, let's look at these other guys and then look at Diogenes, where Diogenes is almost a reaction to them, in a certain sense.
Right.
Well, there's a lot of philosophers where their entire, it's all, philosophy's so like self-felating that it's like everyone's reacting to everybody else, right?
Right.
There's like where they're just thinking at each other, and that's that's philosophy for thousands of years. So
right,
it's cool, but also but the sporadicness is fun, right? I did not expect to get Diogenes first,
right?
The first fucking video, but what can you do? That's why we're here. We're just on the wild ride. We're bringing you along with us.
Yeah.
So Diogenes, based or cringe?
You decide.
Me and Erik, based or cringe? Which
Cringe.
of these fuck around and finds out is better? I want to know. Let us know.
Red and black.
Black and white? The world used to be in black and white.
I think so.